And now we're going to get the view from the left on what is going on in Washington, D.C. We have our favorite lefty here to give us a little balance. Jonathan Harris joins me now. Jonathan, welcome.
Hello.
First of all, as a Democrat, the battle among the Republicans for the speakership, how does that look from your leftist, statist vantage point?
It looks like the greatest reality show ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's interesting,
it's like the initial guy comes out and is like, yeah, that whole Benghazi committee, that was all about like hurting Hillary, and look what we did. And then they're like, oh, you weren't supposed to say it. And then he's like, oh no, I'm having a secret affair, so I'm gonna step down. And then it's like, geez, who should we have fill in for him? Maybe Paul Ryan, but like, we don't even know if he's gonna do it. And he lost last time he ran with Mitt Romney. This is like Big Brother kind of, but
yeah,
not as scripted, I hope.
Yeah, I have to tell you that that's precisely my interpretation as well.
Really?
Gosh, I hate when we
know,
agree.
What?
I hate when we agree.
Gosh, man.
President Obama looking to use his executive pen to expand background checks for gun purposes. This, of course, on the heels of the tragedy that happened at the community college that we all know about.
Right.
Today, there was a protest of President Obama coming there and politicizing the event, as the protesters felt it was. A massive turnout for that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people open carrying on this. Conservatives saying, wow, that's so awesome. We love that. It's just completely bad that people would show up and express their Second Amendment rights. But I have a feeling you don't think of that.
I'm looking at the visual of armed people lining up to greet the President of the United States, American citizens, and wondering what planet the Republican Party has
How
let
awesome
loose
is it,
onto.
though? I mean, peaceful people expressing their Second Amendment rights, and nothing happens because
Their Second Amendment right to a militia for what?
law-abiding people abide by the law.
Well, speaking of people with guns and
But
law-abiding people,
you didn't comment on that.
Well, no, I did. They didn't shoot anybody. I mean,
So can you
I
not
guess if you
say-
lower the bar that far, I mean, congratulations. But I mean, I guess
nothing-
this is America, so I mean, any day somebody doesn't get shot,
shootings
that's a good
happen
thing.
when there isn't someone there carrying,
Two
like
of them happened
the event
today,
at the community
actually.
college.
Two shootings actually happened today.
Right, but
alone,
we're
'cause
still on the topic of the
just another
community
day in
college.
America, right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Right.
But the guns aren't going away. Can we agree on that much?
They can.
No.
Australia did it.
You're not going to get them out of the
can.
hands of the criminals. No, because Australia didn't have the guns in the hands of the criminals the way they are here.
Right.
So you're not going to get them out of the hands of the criminals. So what's the answer?
I don't resign myself to that. I don't resign myself to believe that our government is so ineffective and that our people are so insane that we are in sort of a lawless wild, wild west. I do believe that if we get the right legislators in and we enact common sense reforms,
Do we have
that
them?
we will, I don't know. I don't know. Certainly not
So,
on the
you're
right.
going to trust
Certainly not on
these
the right.
legislators
Right.
to be the right government that's benevolent enough that we're going to be okay if they take away all of our guns and we have no recourse against an overpowerful government.
I just don't understand two things about the Republican Party. Maybe you can answer this for me. Two things. One, if you ask them about Planned Parenthood and abortion, it's like, defund it, make it illegal, because that'll do the trick. But then if you're like, make illegal gun ownership illegal, it's like, that's never going to work. Making things illegal never works. So I'm like, wait.
Because we don't have a right to death in the Constitution. We have a right to life.
We
and
have
we
a
have a
right
right to the Second Amendment.
Are we a nation of laws or not? Abortion is legal. I don't like abortion. You know I don't like abortion, but it is the law of the land.
They are taking massive advantage of that. I don't want to get in the weeds, though.
Right,
I want to go back to the topic because I asked you a question.
That's sort of the same logic.
Do you trust these elected officials, as they are elected now,
Right.
to never become the overpowering, the Hitler or the Mussolini, or the? Do you think that this government is benevolent enough to protect us from whatever might come if all law-abiding citizens no longer can own guns?
I don't know, but I can tell you if they do decide to go that route, Jethro with his AR-15 is not going to stop them. Like, if the military might of the United States turns on the citizens, there's not a weapon anyone can have that's going to stop it. So I think this sort of fantasy of protecting yourself against a tyrannical government is a joke. It's like it's a ridiculous,
So
scary,
you're just
sad
surrendering,
joke.
really, because okay, so Ben
I'm just
Carson,
living in reality.
Dr. Ben Carson, you know, obviously a brilliant man in a lot of ways. I think you'd have to agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
you know,
certain sections, yeah.
he came out and said that he doesn't think that Nazi Germany would have happened if the people had not first had their gun rights evoked. You disagree with that? Why?
Bless his heart. You know, last week we were talking about Jeb Bush.
I don't think you need to bless his heart. I think he's a genius. So.
Last week we were talking about Jeb Bush and the whole stuff happens and how I said he shouldn't say things anymore. publicly. I think we've got Ben Carson, Raven Simone. There's a lot of people who just shouldn't talk.
Why you think he's mistaken?
That is the most nutty thing in the world to say.
Why is it nutty?
Because a single individual with a gun is not going to stop a government force, a force the size of Hitler or the government, from taking over if it wishes to do so. That has never stopped a government, and it has never stopped, what is the statistic? I think in the last 30 or 40 years,
well, it did actually,
somebody with a gun has never stopped.
It did actually, when the Nazis invaded Warsaw, it actually did hold back because they still had their guns. So I think it does. It has, throughout history, if the people are armed, I mean, it doesn't matter what civilization you take, if the people are armed equally, then it does matter. Now, does the government have a lot of guns? Yes, but if the citizenry has a lot of guns, if the citizenry gives up their guns, do you not agree that's just a big white flag?
But I mean, do you really believe that this government, with what we've seen on the streets of Ferguson, with the tanks and the riot gear, that Billy over here with his little handgun is any match for that? And do you think that the Jews were any match for that?
I have a question.
That's insane.
When you're calling the gun owners of this country Jethro and Billy, do you think that's in any way racist?
No. Because the gun ownership...
So if I were to say to you something and use a name that were typical of a certain kind of person in a certain area, that wouldn't be racist.
I don't think so, because the people who are advocating for gun ownership are usually...
My name's not Jethro or Billy.
No,
Dr. Carson's not Jethro or Billy.
No, I know people with guns who aren't Jethro or Billy either. I'm saying, generally speaking, just like the swath of racism
but I don't think that is true.
in this
I think it's actually the way the left has painted people in gun. Yeah, because name the people you know in your personal life who want responsible gun ownership. You know me. You obviously know Dr. Ben Carson. Not personally, but you know Rick Amato. You know Jason. You know none of those people are Jethro or Billy. And so I guess I have a little bit of a problem with maybe the little bit of bigotry that goes into calling them Jethro and Billy.
It's weird for me because when liberals call out like blatant, obvious racism, be it Ahmed with the clock, shooting unarmed black people, white people doing that constantly, we're pulling the race card. But then when a conservative hears even something that they think might be a little twinge of it, they're like, that's racist. It's not racist. It's a subtle reference not to the race, but to the personality type of the person that would have a gun in the South, which is usually where the Second Amendment is widely pandered to and misinterpreted. It wasn't about his race. It was about his personality type. That's the Jethro or the, what I'm
Well, I've lived in the South, and there's some pretty respectable, awesome people there. But
my family lives in the South as well.
I know, we've talked about that. I always appreciate you coming on this show, Into the Lion's Den. Coming up next, our rapid